What's up everybody? Welcome back. This week we're going to discuss ADR, Foley, and sound effects. I'm going to show you a couple examples I made of each one and how they can all be used together to really change the mood and dynamic of a scene. Let's start with ADR. What is it? ADR stands for Automated Dialogue Replacement, which when I first heard that, it was a little misleading. I heard automated and thought, is there an automatic setting that's going to clean up bad audio for me? This isn't quite the case, and of course I did a little more digging. Automated dialogue replacement is really a process of taking something that is, say, shot outdoors or with a lot of background noise, where you need the clean dialogue, and you watch it in studio and record on a studio mic where you're free from all of that background noise. That way you get clean and concise words that isn't muddled and distracted with those outside sounds. Say I wanted to film this video outside instead of in studio. Now that we're recording outside, you might already be able to hear some distracting noise in my audio. It's not too windy, but my wind chimes are starting to go. There's birds chirping, or whatever that noise is. The neighbor's kids are playing outside. The dog behind me barks a lot. And on many days, you can hear the street out front. Either way, it really makes for some distracting dialogue. Also, if I'm using a stationary mic like I am right now, the more I move around and want to have any type of movement in my scene, the more inconsistent the volume of the dialogue becomes. In order to fix this, let me do some more lines right now, but I'm going to overlay them with dialogue that I recorded in studio. If I don't have the option of wearing a microphone for whatever reason, I can record the dialogue of this in studio while I watch this footage. And then I can edit the two tracks together so that my background noise sounds more natural and my dialogue is more clear. To save on time, I'm going to show you a time lapse of me recording the second example of ADR, but we'll hear it in our final example at the end of the video. For now, let's move on to Foley. In a previous video, we went over the origins of Foley, and I showed you some stock examples of how we use Foley. But today I wanted to create some examples from scratch. For our first example, I wanted to record my own version of that bacon rain from the video that I just told you about. Earlier today I was making a burger, and while I was listening to it, it reminded me of that stock example that I used. So I took out my mic, got a clip of it, and then I took a recording at another distance, and then I took one with the lid on, and now we can listen to it. So now I have 3 different tracks that I can layer together, and if I leave them alone, we could use them authentically for shooting a scene of a burger in a frying pan, or I can edit the pitches and different volumes in those layered tracks, and it actually sounds a lot like rain. And when I overlay the sound to a rainy scene, we can't really tell the difference. Rain makes a lot of different noises on a lot of different surfaces, so it's one of the easier sounds that you can trick and not actually use water. The footage I'm going to use in our final example has a boat in it, so I wanted to mimic some of those sounds of water lapping up against the side of the boat. In order to do that, I took a mixing bowl, filled it with water, and then slapped different objects on it, like an empty water bottle, a cup swishing around, Let's move on to sound effects. You might say, what's the difference? Well, sound effects tend to be the larger, more broader sounds in the environment, whereas Foley tends to be mimicking footsteps, taking a drink. For our first sound effects example, I went back to the kitchen. When I was making tea the other day and thinking about this project, I heard an interesting sound while my glass teapot was on the electric burner. It was this odd, slightly sinister electric rumble right as the water started to get hot and steam. Not quite boiling, but just making that rumble. Let's listen to it for a second. And like I said earlier, our final example has a boat in it, specifically a sailboat. I don't live near a harbor or the ocean by any means, so rather than driving 6 hours to California to the nearest boat harbor, I did my best to ruffle some towels and a sheet while recording in studio. Now, this doesn't totally give me the sound of wind going through a sail, but like we heard in our ADR example, it's rather hard in my neighborhood to record some wind outside. I can't get just wind, and blowing right into a shotgun mic doesn't sound like wind either. So we're going to pull some stock wind in from Envato. Now that we have all of our audio recorded, ADR, Foley, sound effects, and we also have our wind and our stock music downloaded, I've assembled the scene and also done what we ultimately call sound design for the scene. Let's watch it with just the footage and the audio that the footage came with, and then we'll compare it to the fully sound designed version. That was pretty dry, and probably even hard to stay focused on with so much dead air and lack of audio. Gives you a little insight on how audio can really drive footage forward, or a story forward. Let's watch it again, but this time the sound design version. So we're gonna get there. We'll push it, and then we'll let out the lines right there. Yeah. Right. Okay. While that scene probably isn't going to win me any awards, it does begin to give us an understanding of all the layers of sound, whether it's ADR, Foley, sound effects, and even music, and how they really begin to improve the production quality of our short film, a tutorial video like this one, and any other type of project we're working on. When we don't consider these elements, it's distracting, and we don't always know what's coming next. While we want some surprises in every story, we don't want the whole thing to be a surprise. And the type of audio we've gone over today, in addition to music and whatever other sounds we make, really helps push along a story, especially when it comes to film. I hope you guys learned something today and enjoyed the topic. Until next time, have a great week.